If you want to make sure you stay in good conversation, you gotta tune in to Coffee and Conversation with Collette. That's me, Thursday mornings from 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. on the only station, WHPR TV 33. See you soon. Thank you so much for not going anywhere. Deciding that you wanted to stay tuned in the Coffee and Conversation with Collette on WHPR TV 33. You want to make sure that you stay engaged in this conversation. I see the lines are lit. Definitely appreciate the calls. Want to give you the numbers again because now we're entering into our second hour. It's kind of like our Freestyle Friday. It's our solutions driven conversations in this time of the day. We want you to be able to talk about whatever you want to talk about and see what we can come up with. So let me give you the number, 313-868-0342, 313-868-0351, and 313-868-4336. And you all know in the previous hour with the Son of Man and the New Nation of Islam, I presented to him if indeed he thought that the riots were necessary, if they were needed. I appreciate the perspective and that, again, as Dr. Martin Luther King said, that we are reactionary and we need to take that energy and channel it into something that we can control that's going to benefit us. I appreciate the callers who called in, and the callers I see, I'm going to get to you after I make this comment. And that I think we all believe that at the end of the day, we can't expect a system to do more for us if it wasn't designed for us. And I know that it's hard for us to accept that. We know that we are Americans. If anybody is original to America, it is us. Everyone else is immigrants. We are the ones who are born here, especially black folk. We are original to America. And so you want to believe that the Constitution, like I said yesterday, was written for you, that the rights and amendments were written for you. Well, they're not. Even so much so that the police system was established. Do you know that the governance of the police was created for runaway slaves, to manage slaves? That was the onset of policing. And so do you think that there's any irony in that an institution that was established for the control of slaves, runaway slaves, intimidation of slaves, the capturing of slaves that were black folk, now the oppression that's happening from police force to black people? Now, I'm not saying everyone, don't say, Collette, you're saying that all police officers. I'm not saying that. But we're so busy, and Colin Kaepernick made a point yesterday, and people get so frustrated with him. But he made a point, he posted about history. We're so busy with trying to understand and recreate our history or understand our history that we forget his story. History, his story. All you have to do is understand who he is, and meaning he, the government, the white government that has established America. That if you understand who he is, then you'll understand who you're supposed to be. And I'm going to say that in this space. So we keep fighting like Cat Williams was trying this, trying that, trying that. We keep fighting to fit into his system, and in his mind, we were only good to produce. Don't you think it's ironic when you look at these? I've been watching all these clips and what the riots look like and the comments of individuals. I told you, you got to be careful about reading comments, either comments from news articles or comments from videos, because you really start questioning, again, as I've said to you on the show and I've asked you, why are people so angry with black folk? We built America, but you're so mad at us. You're so fearful of us. If it wasn't for the sweat, blood, tears, intellect of black folks, America wouldn't be what it is. The world wouldn't be what it is. So the narrative that was created is that we're all these things. And so we, even as people of color, as Son of Man said, we bought into their narrative of how we're supposed to look at each other, how we look at ourselves, and then how we treat each other. And so we still can't get together. And then those leaders of us, because it gets us back into leadership, the leaders of us, where are they at? Where was the conversation when all the injustices were happening prior to the riots? These injustices that are happening today prior to the riots. If it's legislation, why aren't our elected officials creating policy that will benefit us? And hear me, people will say, Collette, well, we're not the majority. If it's a Democrat, you're not the majority. It's a Republican-based House and Senate. I get all of that. But are we even having the conversation? Do we even have the mindset to hold them accountable? As I shared with you a week or so ago, and I got the phone calls about, I said the leadership was displayed through Detroit City Council member Mary Sheffield, and at the last moment, fighting to include the Neighborhood Investment Fund, NIF, that would allow a capture of taxes from the players and employees to then have those monies dispersed into projects to benefit the citizens. That's leadership. Now, whether it was leadership because she thought of it on her own, it was leadership because her constituents demanded of her, at the end of the day, there's a result that's going to benefit the citizens. And if it doesn't, then she and her colleagues can be held accountable. So I just want to know, in the midst of all these things that we see happening around us, she's a prime example. No one else has presented it. It can happen. So in all these cities that we're consistently having to riot, we're consistently seeing the injustices, there is no counter plan to that. We still keep doing the same thing. Maybe it goes back to Martin Luther King's quote, is that we already know going in that we're going to be defeated. So if you know you're standing on the corner, you know that the police harass you. You know you're standing on the corner, and you know the police harass you, and here comes a police officer. Do you think at any point with those dynamics of what you know, it's going to be favorable for you? I'm just asking, at any time do we think that that's going to be a win-win for us? And it's not right. I'm not saying that it's just, and I'm not saying that it's fair, but if we know that to be true, then why do we keep doing the same things that put ourselves in the situations that we can be abused and we can be exploited and we can constantly blame other people for the successes of who we are? Had an amazing conversation with one of our team members when we got off the air yesterday. And so I asked her, I said, you know what? Help me understand that in the midst of the Expressway 75 running through the black community and destroying Black Bottom, where were we to recreate Black Bottom? Where were we? So if we own the businesses, why didn't we start someplace else? Why? So what happened in us is defeatist energy, if that is what it is, that said, you know what, I'm not going to do it anymore. I'm displaced. Or I don't have the money. Where was the leadership to say, well, look, let's create a fund? I mean, you all know, and I believe, and I learned about this in Philadelphia, and callers I'm going to get to you. It's called the GI. And so those were Korean businesses who all contributed an amount of money into a pool. So when one of their own wanted to open a business, they gifted them, at that time it was $10,000 towards the start of their business. So if we had influentials back then, and I'd love to know, is that what people called the elites? Was that the elite black folk? Because was it based on skin complexion? I'd love for someone to share that with me if you can call in and let me know, because that's the first time that I've heard of elites. I'd like to know what that actually means. But if we had these successes within our communities, which we've always had, why didn't we rebuild on our own? Why didn't we? Why did we need someone to tell us? Wasn't there a consciousness of us that said, you know what, if it was destroyed, we can rebuild, because we were meeting our needs? As I shared with you yesterday, from 1964 to 1971, there were 750 riots that occurred across this country. 750. So clearly, either we're doing something right and people are fearful of us, and then they use their influence to eradicate what we are actively doing. So that means we're really doing something well. And so instead of us consistently rebuilding and trying to make a better mousetrap, we just stop. Because then we bought into the whole piece that integration was better. I tell everyone, You know what? And let me just say, I was reading an article, I think I referenced to you all last week. New York Times did a piece, and the young lady said that the millennials now aren't trying to fit into big cities. They're not trying to, especially black millennials, they're not trying to the likes of a New York and feeling displaced. They're finding their way back to southern states, to Atlanta, to North Carolina, to Tennessee. Southern places where they can get a connection to where their roots are from, their ancestors are from, and to build something of their own. I love that. I tell anyone right now, you could put me on some land and a farm, and I'm just as happy. Not a problem. Not a problem. And so at what point then do we realize that that could be us? And even if your oasis is created in your urban environment, but you still own your home, or you own the land, you own. So that means you can control. You're not at the whim of someone else. And or do you have a plan? Those of us, and I appreciate the caller from the previous hour, he said he has a concern about his children and his family. And so he's working to identify how he can create a different conversation so that they can have a different outcome. As parents to children, don't we know that we have the ownership of creating something better for them? Creating an opportunity so they can have a hand up? Not that when you get out of school, you should have all this debt. That's not what this is. How does that help you out? I shared with my dad and the history of things with my dad and based on everything that we went through. And I told him the best thing he could have given us is the ability to know that we can think and to think through things and to learn and to grow, and the conversations, which were priceless, much more than cutting a check. Because if you don't have the mindset, but you have the money, what difference does it make? Because we all see what happens with that. Everyone who has the money, who don't have the mindset, you just give it all away. And whether you're giving it away because you want a bigger house, you give it away because you want a fancier car, you give it away because you want more designer clothes. I always reference that song, what's his name? Oh, that's my guy. Come on now, out of Memphis, Tennessee, Yo Gotti. And in his song, he says what? Show me where the titles and the deeds at, not where the cars and the keys at, clothes and the keys at. So what does that show you? Ownership. Focus on titles and deeds, not clothes and keys for cars. That's no ownership. We're just constantly consuming and giving it back, and we have nothing to show for it, you guys. So where do we go from here? That's my rant for Friday. That's my rant. Not a commentary. It's a rant. Because I need us to do something different, have some different conversations, have some momentum so that we are doing better right where we are. We can do better right here. We shouldn't have to keep fighting everybody, and then we complain why they don't give us whatever it is they think they should give us. We don't even know what we should be given. How's that? Maybe I can present that to you. Do you even know what you should be given? If someone said to you right now, you can have whatever you want, what would you ask for? Do you even know? Let me ask that. Or we're so busy trying to say what they have or look at what they have that we don't even know what we need for ourselves. I'm going to go to the line. Okay, I'm going to stop because I'm getting a little heated. Maybe it's the lights, a little excited. I'm going to stop. I'm going to go to the lines. Maybe you can share some insight with us this morning. Thanks for your patience. Great morning to you.
Yes, when I talked to you, I couldn't hear, so I had to hang up because I didn't know when you was talking or not. That's why but I did get my other phone, and I heard this other man said I kept talking when you was talking, but I couldn't hear you when you was trying to maybe interject.
Sure.
But I would say this to you.
Okay.
Where do we go from here?
Right.
First, we got to understand you cannot have an independent retail.
Okay.
Retail selling milk, selling clothes, selling furniture, selling cars. You can't be an independent economy because you depend on manufacturing to produce those things, or for people that own forests to produce wood so you can make furniture, or people that own mines that you get minerals from. So if you're not a part of that, you cannot be in a city, as I heard Son of Man say, and be independent. I'll tell you why. We got a live picture right before us. The guy that owns a food land, he had three. Had one in Ferndale,
Sure.
one on the east side off of Jefferson, and one out here on Southfield and Grand River.
Yes.
He could not. He was not in wholesale.
Yes.
The distributors are the Arabs now.
Yes.
In this whole area, they distribute the milk, the food, and they got now got Eastern Market.
Yes.
So to Kwame. So the guy at Foodland couldn't get the products cheap, and he had to go out of business over on Grand River.
Yes.
I mean, not Grand River, on the east side.
Right.
And when on Grand River, he'd been out of business for about a year now. And guess where I seen him at? I seen him at the new Myers Fifth Acre, and he was a manager. So we already know if you're not tied to independent and you're not tied to the abstract industry, you can't be independent. And we know from history, and I want you to ask R.J. Henry Tyler to bring that video that the guy, descendants from the Wall Street in Oklahoma, he brought a video, and when he played the video says the blacks was on I think the south side, the white was on the north side, and they had to. But if the working people didn't go, the working blacks didn't go over and get a job, they could and come back and spend in the black community of Wall Street, it wouldn't have survived. And Wall Street was not the major employer of blacks. And same as Paradise Valley, if blacks didn't go to Henry Ford, Paradise Valley, the store owners and all of them, they was living off of us. So that's why
stay there, Brother Tyrone. I guess, and I don't have maybe it's like apples and oranges. I don't believe that anyone is downing the people that have worked in the factory and took those monies, but the difference is you took the monies and brought them back to help businesses within your community. So absolutely, if you worked in the plant and you came back to that neighborhood grocer, that neighborhood cleaners, or that neighborhood pharmacy and spent your money there, that helped them keep meeting your needs. That's the way the cycle goes. But now we work other places and then we take the money away from our communities. The brother who owned the grocery store, he shouldn't have had to close because he didn't have enough people. He should have had to close, to your point, if that the produce was just too high, and then he didn't have other means of getting those foods in at a cheaper price point. That should have been why it killed his economic model. Not because we didn't support him, because he will go and spend much more money anyplace else. When you see people in stores, they don't look at prices. Folks just go through the grocery store. Folks just run through. They put any and everything in their bags. They'll have 2 and 3 carts full of food, and no one's questioning what the price is. So I think the bigger conversation is that we still don't want to support each other. That's what it boils down to. I understand what you're saying. We understand.
You got a point there, but let me say this, Paul. Then somebody else get on, see what they think.
Okay.
I've been here since '63.
Okay.
And when Johnson came up to try to get the people out of the streets and stuff, come up with the community action program, they called it commonly the war on property. Yeah. And they were giving a lot of grants and stuff out.
Sure.
That's when the Muslim start owning business on the Strip. That's when the Muslim bought the farmland down there that this don't exist now.
Okay.
That's when they got it. And when they had contracts over in Chicago to security around Willow Green, whatever, a project.
Yeah.
When those money dried up, the Muslims' business dried up, and they had no more business. So when they tell you and when you read the final call, and it's the same thing was in the Muhammad speech, I will read it real fast. It says the number 4, we want our people in America whose parents and grandparents was descendants from slavery to be allowed to establish a separate state or territory of their own.
Yes.
Now, they was asking the government. Then they went on down and said, we believe that our former slave masters are obligated to maintain and supply us, to supply our needs,
Sure.
in this separate territory for the next 20 or 25 years. They are asking, so when you hear the Muslim and what they're asking right in their paper, asking for welfare. And when you heard Son of Man say we should control the cities, we can't, because the food man showed you, if we don't own the manufacturing and you don't own the mines and stuff, you cannot be independent, and you'll be like Puerto Rico. They can take it and run the whole population out of Puerto Rico.
I got you. So this is so say that here. This is what I asked you to do. I want you to call in tonight to Son of Man. Because I'm not Muslim, and I'm not going to sit and try to speak on his behalf into what you stated in the final call. But I challenge you, I charge you to call in tonight to his show at 9 p.m. to have the same conversation. And so my thing is, yet again, if we understand all these examples, you are a wealth of information from every avenue, from the statistical point, from the labor part to the practical life experience. If we are so great at understanding the history of it, we can't create a plan that's going to benefit us because we understand the history. Brother Tyrone, I appreciate your phone call. I'm going to get to the other callers. I mean, everyone, that's what this whole thing is about. We're so great at understanding the history, his story, but we aren't smart enough to create a plan for us. Maybe, is that the miseducation of the Negro? That's the Carter G. Woodson. So we're stewards of everything about what we can't do, but when it comes into what we can do, it's a silence. So no one has a conversation. Caller, thanks for your patience. Great morning to you.
Good morning, Queen.
Good morning, King.
Queen,
Yes.
Excellent conversation
Thank you.
this morning.
Sure.
And the Nation of Islam,
Okay.
for those who don't know, they bought the land back down in Georgia.
Okay.
One of the scientists is down there actually operating the farm down in Georgia.
Okay.
The nation has one of the most beautiful restaurants in Chicago over on 79th Street.
Okay.
The Salon restaurant. It was built up from the ground up.
Okay.
They also have, understand, the University of Islam on Cottage Grove or whatever,
Okay.
where they're turning out who's who students every year, and they're sending students over to Cuba to become doctors
Yes.
and whatnot.
Oh, say right there, King, and let me just say, I know an amazing young lady, Naira Muhammad, who graduated from Lemoyne University at the age of 19, and now she is in Cuba in medical school.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
I understand all that. And let me just say, because I think, again, we constantly do this to ourselves. We are still getting caught up in religion, and we're missing how we move forward. Everyone should just be happy that there is a restaurant. Everyone should be happy that there is an
Yes,
institution
ma'am.
of education. Everyone should be happy that there is a farm. No matter who put it up there, we should be happy that those are prime examples that we came up with an idea,
Yes,
implemented
ma'am.
a plan, and we're actively doing it, and we're actively living, and we're actively producing. Why can't we all get that? So say, guess
Wait.
what? If it happens to it just happens to be the Muslims that followed under the Nation of Islam who started this thing, so be it. Okay.
Queen, and you're absolutely right what you're saying. Queen, you're absolutely right what you're saying. And that's really, Queen, what you're saying. And to show you the condition that has been, what has happened to us.
Yeah.
Because we've been made into a people that has never been on the planet before.
Yep.
We are people, understand, that are so divided in so many different groups.
Thank you.
And the way we've been, understand, fractioned off,
Yeah.
white folks don't see us a threat for thousands and thousands of years. That was the whole thing about Willie Lynch, sister, is that they didn't see it, what that they have done to us.
Sure.
They don't see us as a threat because we're so fractioned off right now. Like you say, I don't care about you being a Christian because I still know you're my sister.
Yes.
I don't have a problem because titles and labels is what kept us divided.
And stay there,
Even
and King, and stay there.
I call myself a Muslim queen.
Yes.
I'm trying to be one.
Yes.
But
yes.
Queen, it says in the Holy Quran, we give you Islam as a religion. It's not a religion, Queen.
Yes.
It really does say religion is every day, 7 days a week. It's not on a Sunday.
Yes.
It's not a Baptist. It's not a Christian. It's not. Religion is every day. The birds, the trees, the insects, all practice religion 7 days a week.
Yes.
We are the only people on the planet that chase the religion, and we're divided, and we're catching hell, and there's no future for our children because of our ignorance.
Absolutely.
Queen.
Absolutely.
And we argue and argue and argue with points that don't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense. I mean, stay there, you guys, and callers I see, I'm going to get to you. But let's just, and I know how I'm going to handle all this. But look.
I love you, Queen.
I love you, too. Look, have an amazing
have a blessed day.
Have an amazing day. Everyone, look, we don't have because we don't want it. It's really that simple. You might sit and say we do, but we don't. Because we have enough influence in our communities to have banks, credit unions, to have grocery stores, to have cleaners, to have automobile dealerships. We boast some of the biggest churches that have 1,000+ members. You mean to tell me that the 1,000 members that you get through your doors on Sundays, you collect the tithe and offering, and you go put that into somebody's bank, right? So if you know good and well you're averaging $10,000 to $20,000 a Sunday, you don't think that then you could set up a charter to have a credit union to be able to use your own money, and that everyone that's in that church is going to come and set up accounts and pull their money out from all the other entities that hold them, that won't give them loans, that won't give them mortgages, that won't do anything that help them improve their condition? You think they won't bring that money into that facility? Same thing with schools. You think that if you establish an educational institution that those same individuals who follow you on Sundays won't bring their children out to function in those schools, so that you can then, in the curriculum of the state, but then work to create other values for those young people, whether it's an agricultural program or an engineering program or a science program? You actually think that if we decided we wanted to manufacture clothes and create a manufacturing company, that you think that we have those type of bodies and expertise, that we couldn't raise the monies? Because we raise the monies for everything else. We'll raise the money for a capital improvement fund or a building fund, and then the people who build the building won't even look like us, and we don't even employ and hire contractors that look like us to build the building. Stop it. We don't have it because we don't want it. And we want to sit and complain about what we should have or what other people should be giving us, but we don't want to put in the work for it. Because guess what? Those who are controlling those means, they get what they want. I've had conversations with the mega church people, and they've told me point blank, well, Collette, that's not what I believe my vision is. That's not what my calling is. Okay, but if your calling is to have 2,000 and 3,000 people every Sunday and you get some money from them, what? Those same people should have a fund where they can come and get monies from. If they can't pay their utility bills, if they need help on housing, if they need clothing allowances, if they need educational monies, that same money that you're collecting that handles the operations of the church, when is that going to give back to the people to make it better? And if that's not the way it's supposed to be, then so be it. On this Friday, that won't be the solution. But I just don't understand how you can't go into a space and say that you're giving them the opportunity to influence the most precious part of you, your spirit. So you will open yourself up to someone giving you direction and a connection alleged to God, your spirit being your inner man, and they can't benefit any other aspect of your life, and you don't even question it? You don't even question it. and you fall into the emotionalism. So maybe that goes back to our quote from Martin Luther King, the emotional catharsis. So we want that release of the emotion, and then you walk out and it's useless. There we go. And so that's where we are. So when we go back and look at everything for the riots, we know what America is. Maybe that's we keep acting like we don't know. We know what America is. It's built on injustices. But how do you make that injustice work for you? Stop talking about what we can't do, who we aren't. We're everything. As you said earlier, if we just stopped and realized who we are, everything would be different. You know, everyone wants to look like the black woman. Everybody. From lip injections to hips to all the things that make us beautiful. Remember the Hottentot Venus that was on display? They took her around in the circus. Everyone admires that. But we think, oh, well, no. Our different complexions, our hues, our skin colors, the brilliance and beauty of who we are. Everyone wants to be tanned, but we feel bad that we're dark. Oh, I don't want to be dark. But Joker's getting tans. But you don't want to be dark? It's a natural melanin in your skin that makes you beautiful and radiate, but you feel bad about it, but they're getting tans? Stop it. I mean, I'm just saying, just stop it. Let me go to the line. Man, look. Thanks for your patience. Great morning to you. Are you there? Caller?
Yeah.
You there?
How you doing, Collette?
Good. How are you?
All right. You know, inspiring conversation this morning.
Thank you.
You know, you guys are on fire.
That's how I feel. Literally.
Let me add this to the conversation.
Please.
And just think with me.
Okay.
You know, when it comes to the riot, and remind me to hit the grocery store before I get off.
Okay.
Let's think about the riot for a minute.
Sure.
The name riot causes a reaction from law enforcement.
Mm-hmm.
So they call it a riot.
Yeah.
That way law enforcement could react in a certain way.
Okay.
Now, who has more to gain in a riot than anybody?
Right.
The business owners.
Yes.
Because when a riot happens, it is known throughout history that business owners are part-siders of the riot, and they get paid big through the insurance companies because during a riot, they claim stuff that wasn't even took.
Right.
This is their day to be the crooks and get paid to be a crook.
Right.
So I'm saying that because I remember when my uncles would talk about this and how other people from other communities were coming to Detroit looting. Yes. One of my uncles said he seen a brother in a shopping cart, but he also seen a white guy in a Mercedes looting.
Right.
But they didn't show none of that. They didn't report that.
Yeah, no. We're not going to support that now. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, the worst part about the riot is the stupid thinking that law enforcement applied to calm down the so-called riot.
Right.
And here's what I mean. Just like the riot, the so-called riot that happened in L.A., Watts. The stupid thinking of the state police was, let's employ Mississippi state troopers. Bring them to L.A.
Yeah.
Now you have a different mindset of person trying to restore order amongst people they ain't know nothing about but have pure hate for.
Yes.
So I want you to be mindful of the monopolies behind what they start when they get you to get into their game that they call a riot, because they showing all of this because they want to do it again.
Absolutely.
This is why they show it. They want to do it again. He is bored. He got these new toys that they gave the police from that Bill Clinton gave them from a grant where they were able to get Army-type vehicles to regular police departments. They got rocket launchers now. They got these drones now. That white boy want to play.
Yes. Yeah.
And if you are not smart, you will play right into it. So whatever happens, hold your peace and stay in your home.
Yes.
And don't be part of nothing he's trying to pull you into. Because they ready. Over the last 10 years, they've been gearing up. And because we've been slow, this generation is slow to get off into all of that.
Oh, yeah.
So his patience is growing thin.
Yeah.
what I got to do to make these Negroes get out their house so we can kill them.
Yeah.
We already killed black men.
Yes.
That ain't got them out.
Right. Right.
We put the curfew on them downtown in Detroit and basically told them Negroes ain't allowed down here. Right. That ain't got them out.
Yeah.
What is it going to take to get them out so we can use these new toys? Yeah. We got all these boys up north who ain't got no job but got this law enforcement training. They ain't got nothing to do.
Yeah.
And if you don't believe that they'll do that, look at the presidency of Andrew Jackson. How when white boys ain't have nothing to do, they start creating an industry for them to have something to do. Sure. When white boys was making money off of shoemaking, and the machine came in to reinvent shoemaking, and it put all these boys out of business, the president destroyed the machine industry only to maintain them boys' jobs.
Absolutely.
So look at who you dealing with, and he's trying to bring you out to play to kill you.
Yeah.
Now, the grocery store component.
Yes.
Let me explain something to my people. We all say that we need black-owned grocery stores.
Right.
Well, let's just look at that outfit.
Sure.
The grocery stores sell processed stuff. There's nothing healthy really in the grocery store.
Right.
So if we did have a black-owned grocery store, what should that look like?
Nice.
Because when you walk into a store, you don't see food first.
Right.
Everything in there is processed.
Yeah.
Anything that comes packaged
great
is
point.
processed.
Yes.
It's not good for you at all.
Right.
So the mindset is number one.
Yeah.
As a community in a whole, we need to first change our diet. We have to stop wanting all this processed stuff.
Yeah.
And then when we do get a store, that store will be required to carry only the life-giving and life-saving food.
Yeah.
So that means you're not going to be drinking milk. I hear people say, well, you don't make your own milk. Well, let me tell you something. The cow only give her baby the milk for 6 weeks and stop it. Why are you giving it to your kids 18 years?
Because they told us to.
Exactly. You weren't even smart enough to see that the cow don't even give it to her baby except for 6 weeks.
Look, because they told us.
Who was you waiting to tell you that?
Yeah, they told us. Somebody told us. Look, they just told us that's what you're supposed to do. Right.
Keep your children on milk. It's how? Well, tell the cow that. The cow said, no, I only keep my baby on it for 6 weeks.
Look. You know what? You make a point, and this is what I'm going to do, because your comments are going to lead us right into this clip. Okay, and I think the clip might be 7 minutes, so I want to make sure we get the clip before we have to wrap up. All right, so I appreciate everything that you're doing. Thank you so much for the conversation. Callers, I see you, but I want to give this clip because this clip is a part one. Thank you so much. It's going to set the tone for the conversation next week. So why don't we go to the clip, shall we?
Detroit, 70% black, ringed by white suburbs that have been called the most segregated in the country.
Suppose one family moves in. What do you have? Prostitution, drugs, gang fights, gangs moving in. Who needs this?
It's a community aflame with racism, crime, and poverty, run by a mayor accused of throwing fuel on the fire.
Now, who the do you think you are to come in here and cross-examine me?
Brutal, naked aggression.
I have had it.
Hot rhetoric backed up today by another increase in American troops. The cost of going to war with Saddam Hussein, whose life is on the line. Your daughters, your sons.
If George Bush orders American forces to attack Iraq, then God will have to forgive him because I will not.
I was, very, very frightened. It's a side of Murphy Brown you've never seen. Tonight, we'll show you the nuts and bolts of putting together a top-rated TV sitcom.
You saw them here 2 weeks ago. Members of Congress living it up on Barbados and then billing taxpayers for the tab. Tonight, the fallout from that report and other congressional trips in the works.
From 8AC News, with anchors Diane Sawyer in New York, Sam Donaldson in Washington, Chief Correspondent Chris Wallace, Judd Rose, Jay Shadler, and Sylvia Chase. This is Prime Time.
Hey, where's the elephant going?
It's okay. I'm sure he'll be back.
Dad, your hair!
This breathtaking moment was brought to you by the Canon E57 camcorder and its brilliant low-light capability.
If this is your idea of a well-rounded breakfast, you should try a wholesome Great Starts breakfast instead. Like whole wheat pancakes and light links, a new breakfast made with the goodness of grains. Great Starts, a real breakfast.
Remember that one? He's a natural. Great timing, Joe.
Hey, that one takes me back.
I love watching my highlights.
Yeah, but what's funny is you're known as a hitter and baseball's greatest all-around player. What I remember is your pitching for Mr. Coffee.
The best I've ever tasted.
Oh, nice delivery, Joe.
You know, back then, Mr. Coffee was the best-selling coffee maker, and it still is today, because it still makes a delicious cup of coffee. Mr. Coffee, still the first choice of coffee lovers.
Prime time from New York. Here now, Diane Sawyer.
Good evening. Our first story is not a story about a city. It's a story about some Americans who may be sending a kind of warning to the rest of us. A warning about what can happen when bitter polarization takes over the place where you live. In this community, the rich are divided from the poor, the races divided from each other, and it's all compounded by violence and drugs. We're talking about Detroit, once a symbol of U.S. competitive vitality, and some say still a symbol of the future, the first urban domino to fall. And standing at the center of it all, a controversial mayor facing charges that a lot of the blame lies at his feet. Here's Judd Rose.
This is a racist story, or so the mayor of Detroit would have you believe. It's about the city and the mayor, and it's no Valentine, which by his definition makes it a racist story.
To attack Coleman Young, I've become a code word for black. To attack Detroit is to attack black. Politicians run for office by attacking Detroit, by attacking Coleman Young. The media gets headlines.
You're a symbol.
By running bad... Exactly. You got it.
Coleman Young doesn't like criticism, especially from outsiders. But outsiders should take a close look at Detroit, and wonder, could it happen here? The truth may hurt, but the truth is, Detroit is burning. Every city has arson fires, but only here is there one angry night like Devil's Night.
Every year on Halloween Eve, while other cities have trick-or-treating and window soaping, Detroit is engulfed in an orgy of arson. It's a holiday tradition, sort of like a mean-spirited Mardi Gras.
We were just sitting there watching TV, and all of a sudden there was a burst of flame, and that was it.
John Holton lived here for 31 years. It was gone in minutes. There were hundreds of fires like this during Devil's Night and the days before and after. Firefighters said there were nearly 400, but the city counted less than 300. Not surprising, Devil's Night is just more bad publicity for a city that already has plenty.
This is hell. It's hell here on Devil's Night.
Detroit is armed and dangerous. There are an estimated 1.2 million guns here, more guns than there are people.
This 22 automatic, I keep that one under my pillow with me.
Along with his 22, Art Sims owns a 9mm automatic pistol, an assault rifle, and a sawed-off shotgun. He lives in one of Detroit's better neighborhoods.
5 streets down, you got crack dealers, and you got people breaking in. They come down here, they see nice houses, they see nice things, and they want to break in. So, I got to protect myself from them.
You're prepared to use those?
Yeah, at all times.
Detroit is bleeding. If you're young, black, and male, you're more likely to die by violence than any other cause. Last year, there were 400 children aged 17 or younger who were shot in the city. 40 were shot dead.
Like a whole generation is being wiped out. It's like they just don't care about life. It's nothing to take a life.
Gloria G's son lost his life last April. Police sources think a drug hit team shot him by mistake. Quentin G was 19.
when I visit the cemetery, what can I do is just say to myself, why? Why is he there? He doesn't even know why he's there. He even asked the question, why did anybody want to shoot me?
Are you proud of Detroit?
Certainly I'm proud of Detroit. I wouldn't be here if I were not.
Coleman Young has been the mayor of Detroit for the past 17 years. Is it a safe place to live, a good place to live, a good place to raise a family?
It's a good place to live, and I think it's as safe as any other. There's not a body on every corner, and the average citizen in this city is not confronted with the fear of his life. So don't bring me that crap about Detroit. We're no different. We have the same problems as any city in America.
Well, it's true. Most big cities do have the same problems as Detroit, and in some cases, they're worse. Washington has more murders, L.A. has more gangs, New York has more racial violence. America's cities are on a dark and dangerous road. But you come here, and you get the feeling that this is what the end of the road looks like. Here in Detroit, we have seen two worlds, one poor and black, one wealthy and white, two worlds with their backs turned to each other. Here in Detroit, we have seen the future, and it's frightening. We spent one night with the sheriff's narcotics squad raiding crack houses. At one, a couple arrived so desperate for drugs, they ignored the police cars in front and came in anyway.
You always that stupid, or you just work at it hard?
At another house, the suspects included a mother of three, pregnant with her fourth.
We've had families, literally arrested families with a father, mother, sons, cousins, nephews, whatever. We're all involved in the entire operation. I guess they pass on their traits, you know, pass on their craft to the next generation.
You might be troubled by talk like that, especially coming from a cop. But Detroit's cops are overwhelmed by what has become a billion-dollar-a-year business here. In fact, some black community leaders told us that the drug industry is now the biggest employer of young black men in Detroit.
Do you understand your rights?
Crack rules in a city where once cars were king.
Detroit put the world on wheels. In one generation, these and other names created America's #1 industry.
Then the bottom fell out. In the last decade, nearly a third of all auto workers lost their jobs, and blacks were hit hardest. Detroit's unemployment rate is staggering. Infant mortality is twice the national average, and almost 3 times as many Detroiters fall below the poverty line. The mayor will tell you that the reason Detroit's so bleak is because it's so black.
In this country, black people are victims of racism. It's not accidental that the cities around the nation that have the largest percentage of blacks have the largest percentage of poverty, have the largest percentage of crime, have the largest percentage of unemployment.
But in Detroit, blacks aren't just the majority, they're the authority. They run the police, the courts, the schools, and City Hall. But black political power hasn't meant black economic prosperity.
In my time in Detroit, I have driven and walked past mile after mile of decayed, rotting neighborhoods that look like war zones, of burned out buildings, crack houses.
And if you've been coming any length of time, those were there when I became mayor. And a whole lot of that's been restored.
There are also people that say that any white mayor who had developed the downtown area and let the neighborhoods collapse would have been kicked out of office a long time ago.
Well, that's bull. That's pure propaganda. Neighborhoods collapsed because half the goddamn population left.
In fact, Detroit, which at its peak in the 50s was home to 2 million and 80% white, today has less than 1 million, about 70% of them black. So now, when it's hammer time in the city, it's tea time in the suburbs. This is where whites went, taking their money and jobs with them. There are now more offices here than in Detroit, more stores too, so there's no reason to go to the city. The only thing the suburbs lack are blacks. One study called these among the most segregated suburbs in America.
There's going to be a part 2. There's going to be a part 2 of this segment from Prime Time, and we're going to dissect each one of those areas: the unemployment, the poverty levels, the crime. I think it's going to be a conversation, I know that it will be, that you don't want to miss. So that's going to be our headline into next week's conversation. That's next Thursday. For more Coffee and Conversation with Collette, so I want you to think about it. Let that visual marinate on the information that was given, the leadership that was in place. Callers, I'm so sorry I missed you, but I'll get you guys first thing next week. Check out the clip again. You can Google it on Prime Time, Part 1 of Detroit with Coleman Alexander Young, our mayor at the time. Can't wait to continue the conversation. Stay enlightened, educated, and empowered, and be safe. Until next week.
33BY, Detroit, Highland Park, Michigan. The views and opinions expressed on the following show are not necessarily the views and opinions of W33BY, its affiliates, management, or sponsors.